right, there we go. Let's try this again. Now we have chat. That was weird. I don't know what happened there. The button somehow, probably on me. My fault, but nobody's here. I'm talking to myself. That's what crazy people do. So, crazy. Crazy like a fox, like a silver fox. Anyway, hopefully people will come back. Now, we had 40-some people, and now there's nobody here. Anyway, folks, it's Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. Overcast day here in central Pennsylvania, but the sun's trying to break through. I can see gorgeous clouds off in the distance. Really lovely over, I'd say about 20 kilometers to my southwest. Beautiful. To the east, I can see some clear skies, but overhead, it's all rain clouds. There we go. The chat's back. Yeah. Yep, now it's working. Chat's back. Oh, that's better. Hey, Pablo, Charlie. Good. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. Thanks for sticking with me. At least I can talk. Yeah. It's good to see you all again. Thanks for popping on. YouTube's telling me there are 2 of you here, but I just saw 5 people chat, so somebody's lying, YouTube. 5 people chat, and it says 2 people. Oh, now there's 18. There we go. There we go. All right, now we got the chat. So, hello, Chris from Heckport, says George Steinberg. Was that weird for you all? It was weird for me, not being able to see chat. That was kind of weird. That was a strange situation. Anyway, so I talked about Celiar's Brink, talked about Donald Trump. You know, one of my viewers asked me on the stream the other day if I could do some footage of just normal people and normal things. Hey, Pierre, normal people, normal things here in Pennsylvania. And I'm happy to do that. What I've done is I've stuck my tripod in the boot of my car. And, well, it was my fault, Chris. I think that I, in my haste, hit a button and didn't allow for the chat. But now you can type, yeah. So, sorry, it's that leaf sound here. It was weird, wasn't it, Erica? Now, the guy that came in and trolled my Rugby Ascendant and said that this guy is not like other channels. He doesn't talk to his viewers. Isn't it ironic? Because I sat here and without my viewers, I was kind of puzzled. What do we do? Ashley Engelbrecht testing. It's working there. It's working. ABCDF. Why did you ASDF, you know, JKL query? Anyway, it was very strange. Anyway, but yeah. So I lost track of where I was going. But I was talking about that guy who was a troll, but that wasn't what the point of the story was. Anyway, yeah, but one of my viewers asked me to do some stuff. So I've kept the tripod in the boot of the car, and I've also put that microphone, you know, the microphone that I have the cable that hooks to my mobile. So that's also in the boot of my car. So if I see an opportunity to stop and talk to people, I'll do that. And I'll try to start recording some things, asking some questions, making some videos, and see what people think. So I think I'd love to ask some questions about the election, but you got to do it in some place where you're not disturbing people. So, yep. Charles Van Olsen, welcome back. Thank you very much, Charles. Yeah, right seems back. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to try to do that and see what people have to say. And then just also film some background and different scenes so people can see that. This is a good time. The question was raised at a good time because it's October. So the leaves are beginning to change. Unfortunately, where I'm at, they're not really red, and they're mostly yellow, the ones that have changed. It depends how much rainfall we get. And I think we didn't get the rain at the right time. We got a lot of rain recently, but you need it spaced throughout the summer so that the trees produce those beautiful red leaves as they die, the leaves die off. But I'll get some of that footage. I can already see some of the deciduous trees turning. There's a few trees already completely bald of their leaves. But let me just give you an idea of the landscape here. It's incredibly weird that couldn't talk. I didn't realize how that is. Yeah, it is when someone talks to their audience. So here you can see there's the trees. That's green leaves, green leaves. That one over there is turning a little bit red. It's not, the maples are the best at reds, but then if I come over here, you'll see that those trees over there are almost completely bare. Almost all the leaves are gone, and then up front there's some. So it's just, it's hit or miss, and it depends on the type of tree, the species of tree, whether the leaves are there or not and what they look like. So this isn't the best region for fall. It's a very good region, but the best region, of course, is New England, when they have a good season of the changing of the leaves. The colors are just unbelievable. It's fantastic to be here. Weird that we couldn't talk yet. The sky is gray and the sky is gray and the sky is gray. California dreaming. California dreaming. Such a rainy day. All the leaves are brown, and the sky is gray, and the sky. Boy, that is, man, it's amazing how some things just stick with you, right? So we had 40 plus people, now only 30 have shown up. Where'd these people go, man? I guess they like no chat. They preferred being here when there's no chat. Yeah, the creek is right here. That's actually that's Yellow Breeches Creek. Now here, it's channeled, part of it's channeled through from Carlisle, which is why there's a settlement here. There was a perennial stream that ran through here with fresh water. So this was a spot where Native Americans would stop on their hunting trails and set up camp and get fresh water as they chased the hunting grounds through here back in the day in the 17th and 18th century. The reason that the British set up a settlement here was because there was a permanent water source. It was located roughly in the center of the state with good links terrain-wise to the south, the southwest, to the east, and then it was onwards from here into Indian country and then into French Canadian country beyond that. So that's why there was a base put up here. In the 1756, I think, is when the Brits set up a barracks here at Carlisle Barracks, and it was theirs until the Revolutionary War, and then we took it over. And it's been a active U.S. Army facility for almost its entire existence. There was a short period of time, the late 19th century, when this was transferred to the Department of Interior, and that's when we had the Carlisle School for Indians, whatever it's called. I forget the name of it here, but industrial school or something like that. And Native Americans were stripped from their homes and brought, supposedly voluntarily, but they were coerced in many cases, brought all the way here to Pennsylvania. They did in other parts of the country, and they were taught to be good little Westerners, wearing their proper shoes and ties and getting proper haircuts and learning English and all that, while abandoning their Navajo, their Apache, all their different cultures, the Creek cultures, Hopi. Yeah, it's just a shame. Anyway, but that's a sad part of American history. By the way, it was all done by leftists who were well-intentioned, who knew better than anyone else, just turned the Indians into good little Westerners, good little Americans, instead of letting them enjoy their native culture and also assimilating to a degree. Yeah, but that is the history of America, with people like Margaret Sanger, who thinks that abortion was a good idea, and of course she liked abortion because it was a way to exterminate America's black population. Yet Democrats vote for Democrats, and they're the ones who love her. 3 small Japanese maples that give a great autumn color. Yeah, Flesh, my Japanese maple sucks. It's only about that tall after being planted for about 6 years, 7 years, and it's gets too much sunlight in the summertime, so the leaves get cooked and they go from red to yellow to green. They hang on, but they bleach all the color out of it, so it's just kind of sad. I don't have the heart to rip it out. It's in my front yard. I should have put it close to the house so it got some more shade. Heard about what's this the other day for the first time. Really interested in how it's made. Trail food, okay. Now, lady says, oh, you special peeps just had a little thunderstorm. Okay. A few maples in the farm in Underberg area, glorious colors. Avocados in harvest too now, says Garrett. Mimikin. I know pemmican. I don't know mimikin. Well, I'll be honest, I didn't need that wind. I've got a hoodie on, but that wind is chilly. You know, I like the cold, but sitting here, not moving around, that cold breeze blowing through. Anyway, yeah, so that's a little bit of the history of Carlisle Barracks. Pretty interesting place. Of course, these barracks here, during the Civil War, the Confederate forces and the Army of Northern Virginia under General Robert E. Lee advanced into Pennsylvania to bring the war to the north for a second attempt. They tried that previously, and then met at Antietam and had a draw, and then retreated back into Virginia. Antietam is in Maryland, so it didn't go well. He did that in 1862, and in 1863, the next year, they came up in the summertime to campaign in the north to take the war to the northern states to force Lincoln to sue for peace. That was the plan. The story was that they went to Gettysburg to get shoes, but there are no shoes manufactured in Gettysburg. That's a myth that was created after the fact and taught to Americans, just like, you know, Christopher Columbus was a slaver, another myth taught to Americans. Anyway, but so the Confederate Army under Lee, the advanced parts of it, one of the divisions, one of the brigades, got all the way to Carlisle Barracks, knowing it was a Army barracks, and so they came here and they looted what they needed and they burned buildings down. So there's no structures, only a couple structures are actually from pre-Civil War. Gettysburg, because it was on their way. Well, they went to Gettysburg because they wound up engaged in a battle that Lee didn't want. Lee's intent was to head to Harrisburg. And so you come up the Shenandoah Valley, you hug the mountains, the South Mountain that comes up from Frederick County, Maryland, where Frederick's at, and he came up the west side of that side, which is big open country and rolling hills. You got a ridge line, and then a big valley, and then ridge line on the other side. So they came up there. By doing that, they were able to screen their movement from Union spies and from Union cavalry, and they couldn't get a full grasp of how large an army had come up from Virginia. And so they're also protected because they've got terrain protect them. They came up and I think it was it Pendleton's division, somebody's division turned on the Chambersburg Road from Chambersburg and came east toward Gettysburg. As a consequence, they wound up in a skirmish, and Lee said, you know what, this ground is good enough, let's do it here. But his intent was not to have a battle at Gettysburg, but rather to capture Harrisburg. That was his intent. So they had scouts, including Jeb Stuart's scouts were all the way out. In fact, Jeb Stuart's came through a little town on the other side of the highway down the road there near where I live called Dillsburg. And in Dillsburg, they actually went to the general store, confiscated the goods, left a IOU, a note, a promissory note saying they paid back. Of course, it was never paid back. And they were scattered all over the place. And then a division came up here, and getting to here from Gettysburg in the route that they came is not the easiest because you go through the hills, narrow passes, along a little river, creek, and you eventually get here. But troops got all the way up here, and Gettysburg is like 30 miles away, 50 kilometers. So they had to turn and go all the way back on foot to go back. And then what happens is you have troops converging, going up the west side, turning east. You have the Union Army in the east coming west, and then you have some of the Confederate troops that are north of that and northeast of that. So they had to come back, and you wound up having the Confederates attacking in kind of a fishhook. So they attacked from the west to east in a line like this, and then troops came down from the north and came in here. And it was kind of weird. So, yeah. Charles says the Union cavalry engaged and just mounted, didn't they? Union cavalry to recognize. Yeah, you're talking about, in fact, that's depicted in the movie Gettysburg very well. And Sam Elliott plays the officer, did it, General Buford, who was eventually killed during the war. General Buford, Union cavalry, saw, was it Pettigrew's troops or whatever, marching up AP Hill, amazing AP Hill, part of AP Hill's division, saw them marching up from the Chambersburg Road, and the Confederates thought they were just skirmishers. Skirmishers were units that were out, you know, scouting and watching the flanks, and they would engage the enemy to give kind of an advance warning, and also to force them to deploy so that they could be easier to be attacked. So the skirmishers engaged, and then the cavalry was there from General Buford. And there's actually a monument. I've showed you guys on my trips to Gettysburg, the monument to Buford. But the big monument is to a general who really was not a factor, but a big, wealthy politician who got the big monument next to his. But Buford's statue is there. He had his troops dismount and play the role of infantry. Now, they had a slight advantage because the Confederates were coming up a rise. It wasn't flat. It's not a hill, but it's a gradual hill, which gave them a slight advantage. So the horses were kept to the rear on the back side of the saddle, and then they were on this side firing. And that, at that point, the word got back to Lee. He wasn't happy that they'd engaged east of Gettysburg or west of Gettysburg, but he said, this is the time, this is the place, let's do it. And actually, if you look at the battlefield, with the exception of Little Round Top in that area, if you go to the wheat field and you go to the peach orchard and you go to all the other terrain, the other terrain is actually pretty good for combat. It's just that you wound up with the Union Army on one side of a field with a mile, 1.6 kilometers between it, and the Confederates on the other side with the better ground, and the Confederates were the ones attacking over open ground, and then Confederates tried to go around the south end through Devil's Den and over Big Round Top, the Little Round Top, and that's just a difficult area. And then they had some Confederates trying to go up the hill on Little Round Top, and it's just almost straight up. It's like a cliff face. And so they found themselves in very difficult terrain and at a disadvantage. The Union Army held, of course, the 20th Maine famously held, and Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, lieutenant colonel in charge of the 20th Maine Regiment, a regiment comprised of troops who were disgruntled, who were not happy about their enlistments, and including some who had rebelled from other regiments. They were brought to them as prisoners. They were put to work, and they fought, and they held off the Confederate charge. The Alabama regiments repeatedly charged and eventually exhausted. Remember, these folks are wearing wool uniforms, marching, some of them barefoot, some of them in shoes that are falling apart for miles and miles and miles in a July heat, a brutal heat. And so you can imagine the exhaustion, the stench from people. They didn't exactly walk around with, you know, underarm deodorant. So what a mass of bodies. Anyway, so there you go. It's a big pub in Ravonia called Robert E. Lee. It had a real plane hanging from the ceiling. Okay. Laudine is here. What else we got there? Did you see the Biz News video on John? What? No, I didn't. What did Biz News say? Is it with Neil DeBeer, or is it just Biz News? Can you tell me about that, Pablo Charlie? Love the movie Wer sich den Wolf tanzt. Okay. Dancing with Wolves. Okay, Charles. Okay. Beaufort, not Beaufort. Beaufort. Was there any way the Confederates could have got any sort of favorable outcome Civil War? It would have been tough, Leshen. It would have been tough. I'm not stupid. Now it's fresh and refreshing outside. Oh, yes. You said you were consulting. Hope it's all going. Yeah, it's going okay so far. Just my accounts were deleted, so the IT guys have to reinstall my accounts. I have no idea why. They're going to expire in November anyway. The contract was re-awarded, and so I'll continue after this, but I'll have to get a new card and new certificates and all that. So it's just a lot of time wasted. Own country. Pickett's charge. That's right. That was Gettysburg. So was there a way the Confederates could have won this? Yeah, but it's very difficult. You got to remember that America had, let's see, was it 21 million people in the north and about less than 7 million people in the southern states. We're talking about an area that was larger in the southern states than in the northern states, and a population 1/3 the size. And of that 1/3, fully a third of that were slaves. 2 million people enslaved, over 2 million people. So you're really dealing with a population of 4.5, 5 million against 21 million. So already from a manpower standpoint, you're at a huge disadvantage. Every Confederate loss was far greater than any Union loss in terms of troops. All were horrific. Any soldier dies is horrific, but any loss was particularly grievous for the South. On top of that, virtually all of America's manufacturing was located in the northern states. That's where the Industrial Revolution took off, while an agrarian revolution took off in the South. The agrarian revolution was made possible by Eli Whitney's cotton gin, which was a device which you ran cotton through, which has notoriously difficult seeds, large seeds to pick out. And so you ran it through there and it pulled the cotton apart and the seeds fell out. So Eli Whitney's invention of the cotton gin enabled the mass production of cotton in America, because before that you couldn't employ enough slaves to pick all the seeds out. So you could just do it so much faster, and that accelerated the institution of slavery in the South. And that was the main crop, not the only one. There was indigo in the Carolinas. There was also maize, but the big crop, of course, at that time was cotton. America is one of the world's largest cotton producers still to this day, but we're not the biggest. The biggest is China, followed by Brazil. And then some Sahelian states like to produce cotton in the desert, which is brain dead, but that's what they do. Anyway, the Pima Indians do it in Arizona, so that's also pretty stupid. Anyway, so the South was at a huge disadvantage. And on top of that, the South had virtually no Navy. So what happened with the South is that people converted cargo ships into raiders, and they didn't have a proper Navy. So the North was able to use its Navy to strangle off the South with a blockade, and that cut off their goods, and they had to do blockade running. Would not automation eventually have replaced the slave labor in the South? Yeah, but not till the 20th century. Yeah, Arkansas is big rice now. Yeah, but not till the 20th century. But the cotton gin actually, ironically, made slavery much more feasible for cotton. Yeah, but we didn't get the automation you're seeing until much later. Alan Thompson says, hi, interesting. You're very welcome. Very welcome. Yeah, so slavery was not a particularly productive or effective institution anywhere it's ever been practiced. There are some exceptions. The Egyptians using slave labor, although many of the people who built the pyramids actually weren't slaves. That's a misnomer. People think that they were slaves. Many of them weren't. They're just lower caste people, but they were compensated in some way. Anyway, most of the pyramids, not all of them. But slavery is just an evil institution. Someone thinks they can, because you only have a fixed amount of time on this planet. And being indentured or being owned by someone else for even a minute of that life is really sad and unfortunate. What gets lost in the conversation about slavery is the dishonest conversation about slavery. Slavery is taught to the developed world and to South Africans as if it's an evil institution invented by Europeans to enslave black people. That's simply false. Slavery has existed throughout human time. We've always had slaves. Someone's always had slaves. The Vikings had slaves. The Byzantines had slaves. The Romans had slaves. The Egyptians had slaves. The Ashanti had slaves. The list is endless. All the different empires who had slavery, all the different countries had slavery. And today, we're supposed to believe that people who have nothing to do with slavery, who profited in no way from it, who are generations removed from it, are somehow responsible. You know, it's interesting because most of America's white population came to America after the end of slavery. That's right, the majority of Americans are descended from people who came here after 1865 or 1868, when slavery was outlawed by the 13th Amendment. So blaming them for slavery and reparations is akin to blaming white South Africans for apartheid who were born after 1994. It's just asinine. It has no merit and it has no place in reasonable discussion. But it happens anyway. Now, in my case, my ancestors are the original gangsters. My ancestors arrived in Jamestown in 1621. Sir Francis Wyatt. They arrived in Plymouth, Massachusetts, descended from William Brewster. They also landed in New York at New Amsterdam. So, I mean, we go way back. We go way back. Cotton was shipped to mills in Manchester where some white kids were injured or died. That's correct, Jonathan. That's correct. Our cotton was shipped. The cotton was very important to the British economy at the time. They were major textile producers. We eventually replaced them as textile producers in New England initially, and then in the Carolinas. Yep. The Irish were slaves to the British. That's correct, Erica. The Barbary pirates kidnapped Europeans for centuries, enslaved them, castrated the men, and sold the women as harem slaves. Yep. Absolutely. No, not effectively, Charles. Actually. No, Irish, beginning with Oliver Cromwell, the British ships would land on the shores of Ireland. They would round up young boys and girls, put them on slave ships and chains, ship them to the Caribbean, to Barbados and places like that, where they would cut sugar cane as slaves owned by English overlords. In fact, we've seen the ordinance passed by a British governor in, I think it was Barbados or one of the British colonies in the Caribbean in the 1670s, in which he forbade the breeding of young Irish slaves with Africans because it disrupted the slave trade. If a 13-year-old Irish girl was impregnated by a black African and produced a mulatto offspring, the status of the mother in the history of humankind is the status of the offspring. The mother is usually a slave, so if she gives a child, the slave is free. If a woman who's not enslaved is impregnated by a slave, then the child is free, but that's a rare situation. So it made it easier because they were brown skinned, and so the Irish were used as breeding stock. And the governor didn't like that because he was selling slaves and it interfered with his business model. So he actually issued an ordinance forbidding the breeding of Irish girls with black African slaves because it undercut his business. Not that he cared about Irish girls or black men, he just cared about his business, which included selling people as slaves. Yep, crazy stuff. Anyway. Irish had slaves they took from Wales. We can go back forever. That's fake news, Fleshin. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just trying to start a Welsh-Irish argument here. No, just kidding. The Vikings had slaves. Everyone had slaves. And slavery continues to this day. Estimates are 75 million people are currently in slavery around the world in some sort of bondage. John is part of the center-right faction today. Even Chris said it. Yeah, no, I think he is center-right, but I mean, some of his actions are just strange. I think he's put himself in a position where he's not going to be reelected to the position he's in. I could be wrong, but I don't think he's going to be elected. But let's talk now about the strange spectacle yesterday of President Cyril Ramaphosa holding a rally outside Latuli House in Johannesburg in Gauteng. This was a rally to celebrate or to commemorate the 100 days of the government of national unity. That's what it was billed as. But in reality, it was an effort by Cyril Ramaphosa to convince an unconvinced crowd of ANC voters that the GNU is good, the GNU is under the ANC's control, and all the parties are doing what the ANC tells them to do because they're good little serfs. That's what this was all about. It was pathetic to watch Cyril Ramaphosa try to convince ANC cadres, stalwarts, voters that it's going to be okay. Don't worry about the DA. He didn't call them out. Don't worry about Freedom Front Plus. Don't worry about any of the other partners in this government because we are running this government and they're doing what we told them to do. It was pathetic. I haven't had time to make a video, but I did download the broadcast. Just wanted to boast that he still has control of our money. Yeah, no, I just wanted to show off. And here's the really odd thing. That's embarrassing for the ANC. I mean, I don't know if anybody else is going to say that. I have to make a video specifically talking about that. But what also has to happen is, now this is odd. I'm only getting 40. Usually when I do a live stream like this, we get like 100. So why isn't YouTube promoting this today? Are they suppressing this channel again? Anyway, the really bad part about it was this was to celebrate 100 days of the government of national unity. But not one of the other 9 political parties was present. Nobody was there. Nobody was there. So why wasn't the Freedom Front Plus there? Why wasn't the UDM there? Why wasn't Al Jamaa there? Why wasn't the DA there? It was all ANC all the time. This is such a scam. How stupid are people? Apparently pretty stupid. I just want South Africa and BRICS, and we should welcome Putin to our country. Well, Jonathan, you're welcome to join BRICS. But BRICS means nothing. It means nothing. How many times I got to tell people this? BRICS is nothing. It's simply an acronym. And it's an acronym that has never come to fruition. There is no treaty for BRICS. There is no constitutional body for BRICS. There is no constitution for BRICS. There are no trade benefits for BRICS. There are no trade barriers removed. There's no harmonization of trade, politics, security, anything. Not even culture. There's not even a cultural exchange organization for BRICS. It's all just vaporware. It means nothing, nothing. So you're welcome to be part of BRICS, man, but it means nothing. Reminds me of when they get a car, they drive very slowly down the road, door stuck under the arm. Oh, yeah. Well, people don't maintain cars. Business Video John was a great endorsement. Apparently, farmers are quite happy with him. Well, I'm not surprised. He seems dedicated to what he's doing, but I'd love to get an interview with him. How will BRICS help us? Reminds me of when they get a car. Okay. Streaming times are different at the moment, Chris. Yeah, I started this a little bit late, but still, even when I've done these late before, we get 100 people popping in here. So with the mobile, it's usually been pretty good. So YouTube doesn't suppress the IP address because it's a mobile one. Which we should do what Erdogan does, play both sides. He does play both sides. When you say BRICS means nothing, does that mean the country would be able to get out of it? Of course, Tian, they're not in it. There's no treaty. You have no treaty obligations. You have no mutual defense obligations. We have a NATO treaty. We're obliged under Article 5. An attack against one member of NATO is an attack against all. That's why NATO came to America's defense after 9/11. So there's no treaty, security defense treaty with BRICS. There is no economic treaty with BRICS. If you're Brazil, you don't get any special privileges with Russia or China, vice versa. BRICS is vaporware. It's a café clutch. It's a bunch of politicians getting together, pretending that they're trying to overthrow the existing order and declaring things that aren't even in place. The BRICS currency. There's no BRICS currency. No, Tian, look it up, man. It's easy. I mean, you don't have to believe me. Look it up. This is, but I just have to remind people, it's nothing. There's nothing there. Nothing to it. But, it's interesting because people have to understand how these things work. So in America, Barack Obama signed the Paris Climate Accord, right? And everybody's like, oh, we're in the Paris Climate Accord. No, we're not. Barack Obama doesn't have the authority to sign a treaty. He can sign them, but it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. Because under a constitution, the president can negotiate a treaty, but only the Senate can ratify the treaty. A Democratic Senate refused to ratify the Paris Climate Accord. A Republican Senate refused to ratify the Paris Climate Accord. We were never in the Paris Climate Accord. And then the lying, fake stream media declared that Trump can't pull us out of it. Well, of course he can. We're not in it. All it is a pledge. It was never ratified by the Senate. But they tried to say that it wasn't a treaty so you can do what you want. No, it doesn't work that way. Lamest speech. I did not see it. Started fighting after they all sang the kill song. Yeah, I didn't see it. I got to get the footage for that, Tracy. Thank you for mentioning it. It's the second time. We used to get fuel from Iran. Not so long. Yeah, you still get fuel from Iran, Charles. That's for mediocre countries. Nord Stream made a mockery of NATO. Yeah, I don't know. I think the Nord Stream pipeline made a mockery of the Biden regime. That's who I think became a mockery. There we go, 51 people now. Did you? Yeah, so did I see that speech? Yeah, I didn't see it, Tracy. It was mentioned yesterday, but I had a lot going on. By the way, I think it's died off now. I haven't looked since this morning, but my video on the original channel, the one I did about President Trump and the questioning whether they had a decision in the appeal case or it was just social media content creators making that because the media wasn't reporting it. That video hit 70,000 last night and about 800 plus, almost 900 new subscribers. So my original channel is almost back to where it started when I got it back 18 months ago, just because of one video. By the way, that video generated $117 of ad revenue, one video. There's levels to this, and BRICS is nothing, end of story. Exactly, Pablo Charlie. It's a struggle song. People would never cause violence. Yeah, RJ, exactly. Trump pulled the USA out of Paris, according when he was president. He did. But we weren't in I've not heard anything more about the Trump court. Neither have I. That's why I made the video. It wasn't clickbait, and it wasn't declaring that it was true. I asked the question. And people don't watch it, just read the headline, like, right, here you tell you what you're talking about. Nonsense. Look, I asked the question, and apparently it resonated with people. It resonated enough that I've gained almost 900 subscribers. I haven't had a video that's got me 900 subscribers since that channel got censored in 2021. That's pretty incredible. Unfortunately, the follow-up video, which was about the third assassination attempt, which wasn't an assassination attempt, or was it, by some wackadoodle called Vem Miller, who claims he's a conservative, but he voted for Bernie Sanders. How do do you go from voting for Bernie Sanders in 2017 or 2016 to being Bernie Sanders supporters to 2018 being a MAGA conservative? It just doesn't jive. Something's not right there. Either he's not right in the head or he's dishonest. All kinds of strange things happening with Van Miller. Let's talk about that in a second. So who is Van Miller? Okay. It is one. Okay, I'm checking time here. So who is Van Miller? Van Miller is, according to his own description on LinkedIn and on his Twitter account, a entrepreneur, a journalist. Am I right when I say China lose a potential conflict against Taiwan, Japan, South Korea? No, you're not right, Pablo, Charlie. I think they would, but it depends how long they want to stay in it. Charles says it's just smoke and mirrors. Yeah, but why? To what end? That was my question. Why? Who profits from this? Who profits from the Van Miller story? I mean, who gets something? It doesn't make Kamala Harris look better. It doesn't make the Biden administration. Yeah, a false flag op. Okay, but for whom and why? So it was a real question. And that's actually the next video I'm going to make. Is the Van Miller a false flag? You know? I don't like conspiracy theories, but this is an unanswered question. It's bizarre. It doesn't make any sense. The Riverside County Sheriff's Office declared that it was an assassination attempt, but then they released the guy. Then somebody put something in the dumpster. Then they released the guy on $5,000 bail a couple hours later. That doesn't make any sense. Detract from the attempts on Trump. How so, Charles? What, by claiming they're not real? Good afternoon, Chris, and good evening, everyone. Sorry, I only saw your live chat now. Oh, no, thanks, Lynette. I think a lot of people are only seeing it late. YouTube's not doing a good job promoting it to my... at least YouTube could tell my subscribers. That'd be nice. Bernard, congratulations to new subs. Yeah, thank you, Bernard. Look, I mean, I was really getting worried about my original channel because, like I said, I recall it had 23,000. I used to keep the screenshots. But YouTube says the peak I ever had was 21,000. And I think that's because they must have removed 2,000 bots or something like that. But they said 21,242, I think, was the peak. Well, I'm just under that now, just a couple hundred based on this morning, based on gaining so many subs. But when that channel came back in March of last year, February, March, when I requested they restore it, and they did, it started losing subscribers immediately. And it's gone down all the way to 20,096. I'd lost over 1,200 subscribers, and I was on the verge of going under. No, that's not me. That was the dumpster. Who pressed North Korea's buttons to provoke destruction of physical links like roads? Oh, that's been going on for a while. Keith, that's been going on for a while. And that's another thing that Donald Trump needs to delve into. He needs to talk to Kim Jong-un, stroke his ego. Here you go, buddy. Come on, let's have a summit. Let's get things straight. You don't have to be mad at South Korea. Now, he's looking for attention. This is all detracting from the misery and poverty that is North Korea. That's what's going on. Yeah, but the Van Miller story is just quite bizarre. Multiple driver's license, multiple passports, all in different names. Look, I go by Chris Wyatt, but I don't have any identification that identifies me as Chris Wyatt. And I certainly don't have any identification Cyrillic or Armenian script or Ethiopian script. I don't do that. Alphabet. That's crazy. Or Arabic. All of my documents are in Roman characters, and it's the same name on every document. It is very weird, Charles. And so, I mean, I'm trying to suss out when I did the video, who profits from it? Harris doesn't profit. Trump doesn't profit. The only people who profit are content creators. Greetings from Cape Town. Enjoy your worldly knowledge. The world needs more candid, no BS. Well, thank you for that, Nathaniel Edward Brown. I just wish millions of people would see that. Instead of having 56 viewers right now, I'd love to have 560 viewers or 5,600 viewers. Usually foreign agents carry multiple documents. Yes, they do, Charles. I worked in intelligence. I'm quite well aware of that. So it seems quite odd that this guy who's from Las Vegas, grew up, or didn't grow up, but lived in LA for 30 years, claims he's a filmmaker and apparently worked for Vice. Well, Vice is not a conservative outlet. So the whole thing is just bizarre. Who takes a loaded shotgun to a Trump rally? Seriously. Look, I get a sidearm in a constitutional carry state like Pennsylvania, but California's not a constitutional carry state. So why would you have a loaded sidearm and a loaded shotgun in your vehicle and passports in one name and passports in another name, driver's license in one name, driver's license in another country in another name? It just doesn't make sense. Was a sleeping assassin until the right time? Maybe, but he's a pretty stupid one. It's a pretty stupid one. I mean, the whole thing is dumb. Look, if you're going to go to some event like that and you're going to do something like that, you're not going to carry all that identification. You're going to carry the minimum identification you need to get in. And you're certainly not going to leave weapons in view when they open the boot. They can see them. They're going to be concealed. And they're going to be in a place where you can get to them. So it's just it doesn't pass the smell test. And the biggest thing it doesn't pass the smell test is the Riverside County Sheriff's Office said it was an assassination attempt, and then hours later they release him on $5,000 bail. I mean, $5,000 bail, that's nothing. You only have to put up $500. You put up 10%. That's a bond. So for $500, he walked out of there after carrying loaded weapons and multiple identifications. And here's the other thing. The vehicle wasn't even registered. He lives in Las Vegas. The vehicle's not registered in Nevada. It's not registered in California. So he went from Las Vegas all the way to California. Well, he might have been in California for another reason, but he takes a vehicle that has no registration. That's a criminal offense. And then the license plates were fake. Yeah. No, I'm a super mega supporter. I came to the rally with a loaded shotgun and a loaded handgun, and I've got fake documents and I got a fake registration in the car, but I was just here for the rally. Yeah. Oh, sure, Vem. Sure. He was planning something. Loaded shotgun was very strange. Makes 0 sense. Sticks out like a sore thumb. Yep. He didn't get a shot off, so they released him. I said fascism was defeated, but then I watched Obama's recent speech. No, I said we defeated fascism. That doesn't mean it can't come back. It's like a bad penny. It comes back just because the wolf wears a sheepskin doesn't make it a sheep. Yep. War is a horrible thing, Jonathan. I agree. It should be avoided at all costs. Yeah, no. We defeated fascism. That doesn't mean it can't come back. We defeated socialism. We defeated communism. But look at these idiots running around thinking it's a good thing. People shouldn't be allowed to vote if they're that stupid. Unbelievable. Anyway, but meanwhile, if you're a black man, you know, going out on the trail here for Kamala, and there just isn't the same enthusiasm when I ran for president. And it really comes down to one thing. It's all the fault of the brothers. It's the brothers. It's y'all brothers not voting for Kamala. What's your problem? You can't vote for a black woman? She's not black. Who said that? Who said that? Everybody. Everybody said that, Barack. Everybody said that. You've been watching too many Bourne movies. Real undercover guys don't put their plethora of passports in luggage lockers anymore. No, Keith, I never said they put them in lockers. Yeah, that was BS too. He goes and he opens up a safe deposit box. Safe deposit box is a good place to put your spare passports. I mean, you know, just saying. I wouldn't know anything about that. Bicky late, says Val. Had SKS with a taped sight, wearing a peach shirt, hiding in the green bushes. Oh, is that the previous guy? Yeah, look, this is crazy stuff. But look, they're looking for anything. I talked about Trump earlier. They're looking for anything they can get at to just go after guys. It's crazy. God's way of teaching Americans geography. Oh, my goodness. Listen to John Jarvis. The Brits conquered the entire world. We didn't conquer anybody. I don't know if you've seen Harris's recent... No, I haven't seen her Instagram posts. I didn't even know she was on Instagram. They aren't sending their best, yeah. So listen to John Jarvis talking about it's the way they teach Americans geography. We know geography. When the Brits were losing their ass in Malaya Peninsula and lost 250,000 troops who cowardly surrendered to the Japanese, we reconquered the entire Asia-Pacific rim almost single-handedly. Some Australians involved, but no one else. The Brits weren't there. All your ships were sunk by the Nazis. Yep. You were useless to us in Asia. And then, of course, we had to come in and save your bacon in Europe, too, there, John. Let's not get started on that. We did get a payoff for it. Some of those English lasses like to put out. We got a lot of British-American relations as a consequence. Tobruk, who cares, Charles? I mean, look, I know South Africans know that's important to them. But we didn't need North Africa to be defeated. All we had to do is cut off their lines of communication. They all would have starved to death. That's the whole thing that gets me. We weren't relying on oil from North Africa, so... why didn't we just defend Cairo and let them all freeze and starve? Anyway, but John Jarvis is saying that's how we learn geography. No, we learn geography by cleaning up the British messes around the world, the French messes, which got us into Indochina and Vietnam. Yep, that's how we learn geography, cleaning up colonial empire's messes. Passports are under the third ticket past the blasted oak tree. Is it a drop site? Is it a dead drop? Oh my goodness, a dead drop. Boy, that wind is really picking up out here now. Anyway, John, I'm just teasing you here. You threw that in. I think you thought I didn't see that comment, so don't run off on us. We like John Jarvis. Anyway. Mike is here. Good afternoon to you, Mike. Oh, Keith's message was Leo. I was wondering why I couldn't read it. Hey, how's it going? Does Adolf Obama think it's 1940s? Yeah, Barack Obama is, he's blaming it on the brothers, man. He's on the brothers. Asian colonies. Who needs them? Exactly, Charles. Under the third rock. America was the greatest country in the world until the 1990s. Yeah, Jonathan, I think you're right about that, brother. Until Bill Clinton, and it all went sideways. Engagement and enlargement. Yeah, what a crock that was. It all went sideways. Thank you, Bill Clinton. Yeah, and all the establishment. I remember Bill Clinton came in office, just new. We're going to get fresh faces, get young people in there. And who's he picked as his Secretary of State? Warren Christopher, 75-year-old fossil, who was an attorney, was his Secretary of State because he helped raise money. He didn't know anything about foreign affairs. America did become the world's most powerful military after World War II. Britain and Russia were at massive debt to America. So yeah, America, well, not technically. We clearly won that war. Not to mention that over half the world's GDP was America in 1945. And not all the world was destroyed. Africa wasn't destroyed. Was geography major in college? All starts with a map. Yes, Mike, I agree. Geography is something I love. I love cultural geography. I absolutely love it. But I love geography in general. I used to love, my stepfather was a truck driver when I was a teenager, and he would drive all over the country. And back then, they used to give maps out free at the petrol stations. So he would go to petrol stations, pay for his petrol for his truck, grab all the maps he could, and I used to have tons of maps. Rommel was totally outnumbered, everything compared to Monty, and the carry-on, Monty was the hero. Yeah, no, you're right, Charles. Rommel was incredible. I mean, they had no fuel, they had no ammunition, they had no troops. He strung together cooks and mechanics and infantry and armor, and they were amazing. Yeah, what he did with the Africa was unbelievable. Now, Rommel wrote a book about tactics back after the First World War because he fought in the Austro-Hungarian front down in Italy, if I'm not mistaken. And he had a book on tactics, and so he became known for that before the Second World War. But Rommel was a genius when it came to mobile warfare. Really did a lot with nothing. It's a shame that he was forced to commit suicide. His son became the mayor of Stuttgart. Don't teach that as a core curriculum anymore, Lord. Yeah, no, they don't, Mike. They don't teach anything except indoctrination. They teach you pronouns. Yeah. They teach you pronouns. They teach you how to dye your hair. They teach you to question your sexuality when you're going through puberty. They teach you to hate your parents. They teach you to hate your country. They teach a lot of things in schools these days, none of which should be taught in schools. But hey, we know that. That's not a surprise for anybody. It's a sick, twisted world. Russia is just like no other. Caucasus will be a thing to watch. Well, the Caucasus are always the thing to watch. They've been a hot spot for centuries. The Russians expanded their empire and went into the Caucasus, and probably not the best move. Leave Chechnya and Ingushetia and Georgia and all those other countries in Azerbaijan to themselves. Just let them fight with each other in Nagorno-Karabakh and figure it all out. Just stay away. Let them just wipe each other out because it's not a good place to put yourself. But that's where the Russians put themselves, and they're idiots for it. There's no real gain for it. Let them go. Yeah, North Korea and South Korea is definitely an issue right now. Kim Jong-un is feeling unloved. He's not on the world stage. Manfred Rommel, how do you know this cool shit? Well, Garrett, because I know cool shit. Actually, I was stationed in Stuttgart. I knew it before I was stationed there, but yeah, Manfred Rommel had an incredibly good, productive relationship with the U.S. military and the American government after the war, and he's loved. You're just getting wind. You're not hearing my voice. Listen to the sound of my voice. Listen to the sound of my voice. We'll now take you deep into the woods. Anyway, yeah. So, yeah, lots of wind. I didn't put the Bluetooth on, so I'm doing without the Bluetooth. Just preferred to do that today. Anyway, I trust everyone's well. But these are the days when I do this consulting things that I remember there's a reason why I didn't go back and take a full-time job. Had to open for the electrician, thermostat blew. Ooh, jeez. Rocket Man has a psycho sister. Looks like you're off the V8. No, I had V8 this morning. I had a V8 this morning. Had a little bit of iced tea to start the morning off. Then I had a V8, and then I just had one of these, trying to stay hydrated. So anyway, now the sun's trying to come back out. Isn't that nice? After the fact. Let me see what time it is. Okay. All right, but I'm going to have to wrap up here, folks. Uncle was a parachute tester in World War II. Those guys were hardcore. Yeah, that's not something I'm going to do. Parachute testing. If you're testing to make sure they work, you don't want the one that doesn't. That's something you want 100% on. Yeah, the wind is, well, the wind here in central Pennsylvania is weird because we're in a valley here, and where I live is in another valley, and the wind just whips through. We got surrounded by hills. Now we're talking about a wide valley. We're talking about 40 kilometers between the hills, but it just comes through. Oh, Hendo just shows up for the live stream. Why don't Japan, Taiwan, South Korea, and Philippines? Well, there's discussion of that, Pablo Charlie. The Japanese Prime Minister is talking about that, a defense pact between all of them and the U.S. I think it's time. A NATO for Asia. I agree. China is a serious threat and needs to be addressed as a serious threat. And that would be the purpose of this. Much like the NATO alliance was to stop the advancement of communism in Western Europe, stopping it in Eastern Europe, keeping it from going to Western Europe, and defend the Western democracies against socialism and communism, even though their countries are full of socialist ideas and socialist politicians. It worked insofar as defeating the Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact. I think we need one for Asia. China is a genuine threat to global security. They're a threat to global economic prosperity. China is an evil, evil place, an evil, evil country. Yeah, it absolutely is. What's up with the new development next to your place? I don't know what you're talking about, Mike. If you're talking about, it's not really a topic I want to discuss here. I don't talk about my place and where I live. So, Australia, New Zealand. Yeah, Australia, New Zealand should. Well, not New Zealand. We can't trust them. No, can't trust New Zealand. Well, there's conservatives there now, but they'll be gone soon. They'll be voted out by the leftists again. South Africa be on the wrong side of the pact if the ANC carry on here. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Yep, absolutely. All right, folks, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you for being here. I've got to get back inside. This was my lunch break. Thanks for being here. Sorry for the chat not being on the other stream. That was really weird. I'm glad I figured it out and we got it back. And I'll catch you guys later. If I'm up for energy tonight, I'll probably might do the inaugural Mayflower Compact live stream on the original channel. My new program segment is called Mayflower Compact. Follow-up question: why people support Trump? Is the media coverage, rallies portraying him accurately? Because he seems to be a bit crazy. No, he's not a bit crazy. I don't know what you're talking about. He's perfectly fine. So you're buying into fake media. I've watched Trump. He's fine. Not my favorite character, but he's got my vote. Cheers, everybody. We'll catch you later. Thanks for being here. Be sure to hit the like button before you leave.